Hello and welcome. Today we're gonna be playing some Clan Wars. Starting with my first account Clash Home, we're gonna start off by playing the Mortar Cycle, Mortar Bait, however you wanna call it. It's gonna be a good deck for starters because it only has one spells, and with Clan Wars you usually don't want to commit with a deck with too many spells. Because of how the format works. Spells are the most limited pool of cards in the game, so you kinda don't want to run out of them too quickly. I'm gonna using the deck with only one spell for starters to kinda live up to that rule, and we're gonna try to pick up a win as well, because obviously Clan Wars, even though it's best of 3 and technically you can go for quick 2-0, if you lose first game, you technically can set up sometimes yourself for a very nice situation for the next two games, because your opponent may not be having counters to your cards. My opponent though will definitely have the counter to the Skeleton King that popped the ability, which is the Mega Knight. It is one of the cards that you have to expect no matter where you play, how high you are. It's just what it is. I'm gonna play the Goblin Gang to defend against the Goblin Gang that my opponent played. Unfortunately, we will gonna take the Mega Knight jump, which kinda sucks, but it's not the worst part, because we have cycled Evil Mortar, and with Mortar Bait it is very important to cycle your evolution, because Evil Mortar is just way more powerful than a regular Mortar, and to play this deck very well, you kinda have to abuse this interaction. I'm gonna play the Spear Goblins to take only one shot from the Goblin Barrel. That's a very commonly used interaction. Usually in double elixir you don't want to take any hit from the Goblin Barrel, but in single elixir you can allow yourself to get +1 trade after taking one hit. So that's gonna be not a bad thing to do. I'm gonna play Skeleton Barrel to kind of fit on my Skeleton King ability, because the skeletons from the Skeleton Barrel obviously will promptly die very quickly, and they're gonna fill up the bar. Right now we're gonna have a small push on the right, so we will pressure with the Evo Mortar on the left, and my opponent actually will not have the best response against that. I'm gonna predict his mini P.E.K.K.A right here. I'm gonna play the Mega Knight. I'm gonna play Skeleton King's, that's what I was trying to say, Skeleton King's ability to protect my mortar for a longer time, and we're gonna be successful at that. Now I'm gonna play the arrows on this Goblin Barrel. Like I've said, usually in single elixir you can get away with taking one shot, but in double it's just better to take a very clear interaction. And that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna play the Skeleton King. Once again, we have the Skeleton Barrel on the board, so we're gonna get a full bar of his souls, and we're gonna then use these souls to protect the mortar itself. And we're gonna get the mortar being locked onto the tower, so we're gonna have to definitely capitalize on that. I'm gonna play Spear Goblins to kinda destroy the mini P.E.K.K.A, and then the Battle Ram. Kinda mistake from me, but it shouldn't matter too much. My opponent definitely right now starving for elixir, so we're gonna play the Skeleton Barrel to make him spend, and then we're gonna play the Goblin Gang just to pressure on the opposite lane. I'm gonna play the Skeleton King's ability as well, because he will be having some troubles defending that, and actually we're gonna be taking the left side tower, so I would say pretty decent game number one. My opponent playing definitely some kind of weird deck, if I had to say so. Mega Knight Battle Ram usually is not the combo that you see a lot of on ladder, so my opponent probably playing with some wild deck, trying to surprise me in game 2. I'm more than welcome to see what he has in store for me, because in game 2 we're gonna be playing with RG. RG obviously one of the decks that I main, so I'm very comfortable going into the game number 2. My opponent starts with a Hog Rider, and I would love to have the Fishboy for it, but even though I didn't have it, it's not too bad, because I just played the guards and took not a lot of hits. My opponent will play a cannon to defend the Roll Giant that I've played. This RG doesn't have the purpose of dealing any significant damage. It's gonna be mostly to cycle to my Evo Roll Giant, which is definitely way stronger, especially in matchup like the Hog Cycle. My opponent right now getting a very nice zap getting his Hog Rider 2 more hits on my tower, which is definitely scary. So we're gonna give him well played for that. Right now I'm gonna just go for Monk, I'm gonna go for guards and pretty much try to sell out on this push, because it is very likely that he's gonna play the lock, and he does. And right now we are in a very good position because he spent a lot of elixir to pretty much still take a lot of damage. And if I recall correctly, he doesn't have anything for the roll giant, so we're gonna just play it on the opposite side. And yeah, his best response obviously will be the knight, which we will promptly knock back. We're gonna pull the knight as well to get one more hit, and we're gonna pretty much get our damage back with some interest on the right side as well. We wasted our fish boy though, so we have to be very careful with defending the Hog Rider. I will be having the Evo Wizard to do this job, because at this point of the game I kinda expect my opponent to try to go in for some prediction spell, so I'm gonna just put the Evo Wizard to make it impossible, because if he plays the prediction spell on the Evo Wizard, obviously he will be running into an issue of popping the shield and getting no hits with the Hog. Now I'm gonna get in Evo Wizard value. Here the shield just makes it so easy for me to get the value out of the Evo Wizard, and my opponent was trying to avoid the scenario where he pops his shield. I'm gonna cycle the normal RG and normal Wizard just to make sure that we have the Evos for the next cycle. I'm gonna play the Monk as well, and I'm gonna play the Barbarian Barrel to counter his archers. Monk will be tanking for the next RG though, which will be way more difficult for him to stop. I'm gonna pop the ability, which I think it was actually too late, so maybe RG won't get too much damage. In fact, he's gonna perfectly stop it, so huge kudos for my opponent. Now I have to be super careful about defending his Hog. I'm gonna play pretty much everything that I own, and I'm gonna stop the Hog Rider hit, so that was a definitely smart choice. Now my opponent for sure is cycling to a next Hog, so I'm gonna play the Monk at the bridge so he cannot play the archers. If he does, I'm gonna just pop the ability, and I'm gonna go for the Wizard as well. Pretty much the way you want to play against Hog cycle is to play a lot of stuff same lane as your opponent, because usually your opponent won't be able to punish it. And we get a very nice win. My opponent wasn't playing Evo Firecracker but Evo Archers, probably because he doesn't have Evo Firecracker, which is weird, but happens sometimes. And that's how we're gonna claim the first duel win onto the next account. And we're on the account number 2. We're gonna go for the Mortar first game as well, because I'm feeling very comfortable with Mortar. Only drawback is that on this account I don't have evolutions for Mortar, so it's gonna be a bit more difficult to get a win if we're in some kind of flinch. Also, we're gonna be using a bit older variations of Mortar bait, which was very popular, I believe, at the end of the year 2024, because that's when I was focusing very hard on getting my duels setups and such on these accounts. I'm gonna go for a Mortar already, because my opponent definitely will be struggling to defend that. My opponent plays the Skeleton Army, to which I can just respond with the Ice Whiz. Very nice protection protocol, and my Goblin Gang will force out a lot of elixir. Unfortunately for my opponent, Lock won't even take out the goblins, so for next defenses he will be forced to play very cautiously. And I'm gonna just go for the minor bats on the opposite side, trying to get something done. And in fact, we're gonna take the tower. Even though we have nothing to distract the Inferno Dragon, playing the Goblinstein on that should be enough. Although I probably should have just eaten it, because my opponent would have either froze it, which I actually played in a freeze range, which is definitely not bueno, or he would have just let it go, and he indeed did let it go, and the Inferno Dragon didn't get a lot of damage because of the levels. But as a good rule of thumb, you should always respect your opponent's play, even though he's underleveled. I'm actually not a huge fan of abusing like level differences, even though I know quite few of them. Usually when I have the opportunity, I still kind of respect my opponent's levels, because like at the end of the day, it's just not to be it's just good not to be a prick and kinda respect your opponent play even though he's at a disadvantage. I'm gonna play Minor Goblin Gang just to kinda try to finish the game off very quickly. I'm gonna add the bats as well because those are the cards that pretty much have the biggest damage per second output out of my deck. Can card is also one of them, but he's costing 5 elixir, and you pretty much pay more for his health than his damage. Is a consistent damage though, so if you have the opportunity, try to cycle the can card in the back on the lane when your opponent kinda expects to go in, to kinda stop the push very early in its tracks and try to get into a good position. So, in the game number 2, my opponent will start off with a baby dragon, which can be countered with a hunter, and probably I should have even played the hunter to cycle to the evolution, but my experience tells me that there are some players that are playing the balloon in game number 2, and against balloon usually want to save the hunter. Okay, the prince actually will get the charge on the tower, which is super annoying for me, but he spent 7 elixir against 3 elixir fishermen, so we're gonna pretty much go all in and try to exploit that he wasted a lot of elixir to pretty much get close to no damage. I'm gonna play Barbaro against the bandit to take this out very nicely, and I'm gonna follow it up with goblins behind the RG to pretty much try to secure the 3 crown very early. The ghost and RG definitely getting a lot of damage. My opponent plays the snowball, so he definitely wants to stay in the game. I don't know if he will succeed, because the royal ghost will just survive, and the snowball that he played knocked out the ghost out of the range of the princess tower, which only helped me, honestly. So that's gonna be the set number 2. Let's go to the next account. And we're on my Hawk account deck, Hawk account. We're gonna start with playing with the Goblin Drill, and that's gonna be pretty much the way I start on this account. I'm gonna play the Bomber against the Mini P.E.K.K.A to cycle the Evo Bomber, because it's the evolution of choice that I chose for this drill deck. Second one will be Evo Cannon, because it's just a very versatile Evo that if you can, you should exploit, because Evo Cannon is the evolution that won't win you the game, but will pretty much win you the key defense in the game. So if that at least makes sense, it's a very strong Evo that can bail you out from a very tight defense, or sometimes allow you to go very aggressively, so then you can use Evo Cannon to pretty much give you a lot of value on the counter pushing units. That being said, we're gonna go for another Goblin Drill after defending the recruits. I'm gonna go for Snowball against these Zappies because I really want to get rid of them, and my opponent will be playing Minion Horde, so that's gonna be the more tricky card to deal with. I'm gonna play the Skeletons to kinda kite these minions, and then I'm gonna play Goblinstein to kinda divert the mortar. I wish I could have played just a cannon on that, because not only I would cycle to the evolution, I also would have spent less elixir, but I was not sure if the minions that were still alive would not have killed my cannon in the process. So it was like I've said, Goblinstein was more of a safe move than the greedy one. With a Goblin Drill, you want to be greedy a lot of the time, but there are times where you cannot be greedy because you'll straight up lose the game on the spot, and that was one of these moments. You had to be more careful and then guarantee yourself a very nice offensive sequence. I'm gonna play Goblinstein to activate the 3-card cycle and try to tank for the Evo Bomber as well. We're gonna activate the ability, which will be way too late, so kudos for my opponent in recognizing that. He definitely was getting very greedy with this Minion Horde, because if I try to predict his Minion Horde, he would have lost the game on the spot, but he kinda evaluated the risk and he guessed that I won't indeed predict his Minion Horde, so it was a good play for him. I'm gonna play another drill. This time the Bomber will be tanking for the drill, courtesy of me playing a drill a bit too late, but it is what it is. I'm gonna play Goblinstein very aggressively because I want to pretty much close this game. I'm gonna play Goblin Drill right now, because when you have the Goblinstein on the board, or any champion for that matter, you have a 3-card cycle, and you pretty much can play Goblin Drills very quickly. The mathematics behind this deck is that the cheapest 3-card cycle is technically 8 elixir, so if you want to cycle drills, I mean, technically the cheapest 4-card cycle is 6 elixir, but if you want to cycle drills, the cheapest card cycle for this card is 8 elixir. So technically, if you have the goblin style on the board, for every 8 elixir spent, you will get 1 drill. So you spend first drill, then you cycle 8 and you have second drill, then you spend another 8, you have another drill. So technically you have 3 drills for playing 20 elixir. That's a very neat thing to know, especially when you're playing with triple elixir, when it's the time to kind of throw as many drills at your opponent as possible. I'm gonna play the Mighty Miner to activate the Trigger Cycle for our next deck though, which is gonna be Hawk Cycle. And actually in this deck I don't remember the exact mathematics, but it's still very fast. You still can abuse it, and my opponent refuses to play against it, maybe because he's just terrified of our next deck. I'm gonna play the Ice Spirit, freeze his tower, take the another one, and the Mighty Miner is on the 3 crown. If he doesn't reset it, which looks like he won't, he's gonna just very quickly lose. So that's gonna be the duel set number 3 for my Hog account. Let's hop to the next one. And we're back on my Lava account. I'm gonna choose the Golem deck first game, because Golem is a very nice starter deck. Usually your opponent will not predict the Golem in the first game. It's gonna be him predicting some kind of Mega Knight spam, Bridge spam, maybe bait, maybe cycle. Playing beatdown deck first play is very unpredictable, and thus you're gonna catch many people off guard by doing that. So I'm gonna start with a Golem. As well, it's one of my more well leveled up decks on this account, so I might as well just start very confidently trying to take a fast win and then kinda decrease my opponent's morale. I'm gonna play a very high Electro Dragon because I frankly don't care about it staying alive. It's more important for me to just cycle to his Evo, and at the same time we're gonna get as well the King Tower activation of his Goblin Barrel, which is gonna be super nice for us. I'm gonna cycle the Barber against the Spear Goblins to force out a play out of him, and with the King Tower we can pretty much eat the Roll Ghost fully and set up already a first Golem in the back. So with this deck you pretty much have a very good defense in Goblin Cage, in Ice Wizard, in Dark Prince, but as well you can set up some nasty offenses, which we will set up one right now. We're gonna play the Lumberjack behind the Golem, and we're gonna play Electro Dragon as well, just to make sure that this Baby Dragon will not get important hits. We're gonna play Tornado against Ewis and Baby Dragon, because that's when Electro Dragon is shining, when you group up troops and are able to kinda hit them all with the Electro Dragon. That's where your offense will be the strongest. That's why this deck also has Tornado, even though Tornado itself is very rarely used in the current meta. It's one of the best synergizes for the Electro Dragon, so we're gonna be able to pretty much clump his defensive troops in one spot, break through, and then push the advantage into the 3 crowns. So that was a pretty instructive game 1 with a Golem beatdown. Also we had at all times the Goblin Brawler evolution, which was pretty much the ultimate bailout. If my opponent played the tank on the opposite side, like Giant or Royal Giant, we would have been able to kinda defend that very nicely. And the second deck, obviously, since it's the Lava Hound account, we're gonna be playing Lava Hound. Since we're up 1-0, we might as well try to push the advantage. My opponent will play a very aggressive Magic Archer, and because of that, I'm very confident that I can play Lava Hound, and my opponent won't be able to easily punish me. He plays the Hog Rider, which is one of the plays he can do in this position. I think if he plays the Hog Rider, he wants to play it on the opposite side, but maybe I digress, and my opponent is smarter than that. We're gonna play Barbarians on the opposite side. I actually wanted to just apply the pressure, but he played the Dark Prince into that, so that's definitely interesting. Right now, the Barbarians will definitely wreak havoc on the opposite side. And since my opponent has to control the Inferno Dragon already, I'm gonna play the Balloon on the opposite side, just to add to the chaos. My opponent, absolutely not interested in defending, plays the Fireball into nothing, and he's gonna pretty much tap out. Another victory on our Lava account. Let's switch to the last account. And the last account will be the Smurf Home, which is my lowest level account, still upgrading to level 14 some of the cards from the duel set. Yesterday I was recording a video about how those decks fare and how I got to create this deck, so we're gonna test this duel set in practice right now. We're gonna start off with a Lava Hound. I've said that starting off with Lava Hound is usually beneficial for you because you wasted a deck with only one Evo, and if you pick a win with that, that's great, but if you lose with that deck, it's still not a big of a deal because you didn't commit too much resources into that and you still can come back in later games. I'm gonna actually eat some kind of witch damage. Okay, the Lava Hound will pick up the witch, so that's gonna be super good for us. We're gonna eat some skeletons damage because Lava Hound is a very heavy power base trade beatdown deck. If you want to get a good offense, you have to be ready to eat some damage, and that's why we were able to play Lava Hound at plus Balloon. We didn't overspend a lot of elixir on defense, that's why we were able to set up a very violent offense with our Lava Hound and Balloon, and we were able to take the tower, and my opponent is not able to kinda counter us because we still maintain the elixir to kinda defend ourselves if necessary. I'm gonna play Valkyrie plus minions on this prince. Probably the best counter would have been the Tombstone and eating one wizard hit, but I wanted to cycle my Evo Valkyrie. Next Valkyrie will be evolved one, which will be very important for us on defense because my opponent obviously has stuff like Evo Witch. Okay, he's not having actually Evo Witch, he has just a regular Witch, but the Witch nonetheless is a very annoying card against Lava Loon. We're gonna actually play the Lava Hound and we're gonna just play a safety zap, not to lose the tower. And now that he plays the princess, I'm actually ready to completely sacrifice this tower because we're gonna get the attack with the full Lava Loon. I think that's gonna be the best strategy. I'm gonna play the balloon right here because I know that my opponent doesn't have a building and it's gonna be better to kinda play the balloon slightly to the side just to avoid the wizard splash damage. Now we're gonna play the tombstone to counter prince, which will be obviously the best response. Now we're gonna play the arrows to wipe out his witch and wizard, and we're gonna play the zap to fully take on the tower. I'm gonna play the mega minion to make sure that the princess gets eliminated, and right now we're gonna just play Lava Hound, we're gonna play Balloon and try to close this game. I'm okay with my opponent getting a prince charge on the tower because at this point of the game it's more important to attack than to defend. At the end of the day you have to remember that Lava Loon is the beatdown deck, so most of the time tower trading will always benefit you. And we're gonna get a first win, so very nice thing about playing a deck with only one evolution and still picking up the win. We're gonna move to the next one, which will be 3.0 X-Bow cycle, which is data I feel very confident in. I still can lose, so I have to have a very good deck for the game number 3. But I'm feeling confident in that I'm gonna pick the win right here anyway. So we're gonna start with splitting archers and E-Spirit to very easily counter the Dark Prince, and we're gonna try to get him to play one more card. He plays the Hunter, which is definitely not a best response against split archers. And right now he plays the Firecracker as well, to which we're gonna play the Skeletons just to activate the King Tower. And right now my opponent actually spent a lot of elixir trying to defend our stuff, so we're gonna play the Tesla, we're gonna play the Electro Spirit. I actually played the Skeletons very recently, so maybe a slight mistake on my part. I'm gonna play the Lock to protect the X-Bow, but it already may have been an overcommitment. Yeah, at this point I cannot keep protecting the X-Bow because he can just go all in, guarantee the kill on the X-Bow, and if I were to protect the X-Bow, it would be very difficult for me to kinda save my tower. And with X-Bow, as with every control deck, it's more important to keep your tower alive than to get the damage back, because you pretty much can get the damage back later in the game. But if you lose the tower early, it's gonna be very difficult for you to ever come back. I'm gonna get a very nice counter against the Electro Dragon with just one archer, and then I'm gonna counter the Firecracker with the Skeletons. I'm gonna play Elixir Spirit to make sure that Valkyrie goes into my Tesla. I was kinda not sure if it's gonna do that, but at the end of the day it did, so it was pretty nice. I'm gonna play X-Bow right now. Since my opponent played this spell, it's pretty much one of the best indicators when you're up elixir. If your opponent makes a play that doesn't give him a good trade. Definitely Fireball on nothing gives him tower damage, but doesn't give him any advantage on the board, which is like -4. And with -4 advantage, you already can go in for the X-Bow. So we're gonna get a very nice trade right here. I wish I can kill this Electro Dragon. Okay, I'm pretty close though, so I'm gonna still go for the X-Bow because the counter was pretty cheap on my part. I'm gonna play the Tesla right here. I'm gonna play the Archers to protect the X-Bow and the Skeletons to protect the Tesla and pretty much try to get away with my play. I'm gonna play the Knight now to protect the X-Bow because I definitely have the Elixir lead, so I can afford protecting the X-Bow. And right now I'm gonna just play another X-Bow because, like I've said, I have the Elixir available to do that. I'm gonna play the Fireball to... Actually, I killed the Electro Dragon, which is super mean out of me. Yeah, it is what it is. I definitely had the level advantage in this game, which unfortunately I even exploited to too big of a stretch, but the win is a win. We're gonna take this win in game number 2 and win with the X-Bow. And that's gonna be the last duel win for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something, at least about how to build duel decks and how to use them in your clan wars. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm gonna be uploading a bigger video edited tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna see you guys next time. Peace.